Hi, everyone. My name's Greg Knight.
I'm Ricardo Avila.
It's time to update our Take 2 promo, and so we've broken out our Gen Z slang machine for Ricardo once again so that he can communicate with the kids.
I hate this.
I know you do. Here we go. The first 100 episodes of our podcast were very different from what we do now.
Those episodes are Ohio AF. You're Delulu if you think anyone stands those pods. You may as well just yeet those things out of here, no cap.
You're right, but we don't want to eliminate our show history. We want to improve it by going back into the raw audio while updating our quality.
That's the vibe. Like you're gonna flex those old pods with a bougie glow up. That low-key slaps, fam. Because right now they're pretty chugi. Good lord.
Scroll down. Okay. Listen, culture evolves over time, and our spin-off pod, Take 2, gives us the chance to go back and evolve our old podcast right along with it.
That's a bar, chat. I think this idea is pretty lit. It beats having a big yikes sitting in our archives. You gotta bling those things out with some fresh drip if you want that new subs riz, period. God, no wonder the youth are struggling. Go ahead.
So listen to Take 2 in the Popping Collars feed and hear our past selves grow before your very ears.
Yeah, these pods are bussin'. You got a dub with this, plus 1,000 aura. This idea is giving. You ate.
I wonder what would happen if we changed the slang machine to the millennial setting.
Get in, loser. We're going podcasting.
Okay, that makes sense. Hi, I'm Greg.
And I'm Betsy.
And this is Going on 30, a Popping Collar side project where life is like a box of chocolates.
Greg, you're even from the South. And that
wasn't
terrible.
even Southern enough. Wait a second.
That was so bad.
Where?
Everybody could do a Forrest Gump impression. Everybody.
Life is like a box of chocolates.
There we go. You got the chocolates. Yeah, you got to get that part. Yep. Good job.
You never know what you're going to get with movies that were nominated or should have been nominated for Best Picture 30 years ago this month. We're looking at the winner of Best Picture, 1995, Forrest Gump.
Would you like a chocolate?
Oh, thank you.
It's funny what a young man recollects.
You're the same as everybody else. You are no different.
Your boy's different.
Are you stupid or something? Mama says stupid as stupid does. I'm Jenny. I'm Forrest Gump.
She was my most special friend. My only friend. We was together all the time. We was like peas and carrots, Jenny and I.
Run, Forrest!
Hey, stupid!
Run!
Now, you wouldn't believe it if I told you, but I can run like the wind blows.
Who in the hell is that?
That there's Forrest Gump, Coach. Just a local idiot.
I never thought it would take me anywhere. They even put me on a thing called the All-America team, where you get to meet the President of the United States.
Congratulations. How does it feel to be an All-American?
I gotta pee.
I believe he said he had to go pee.
Now, maybe it's just me, but college was very confusing times.
Have you ever been with a girl, Forrest?
I sit next to them in my home economics class all the time.
Have you given any thought to your future?
Go! What's your sole purpose in this army?
To do whatever you tell me, drill sergeant?
You're a damn genius. You are going to be a general someday, Gump.
Yes, drill sergeant!
They sending me to Vietnam.
Listen, you promised me something, okay? If you're ever in trouble, don't try to be brave. You just run, okay?
Okay. Where you boys from in the world? Alabama, sir. You twins?
No, we are not relations, sir. For some reason, what I was doing seemed to make sense to people.
Forget about me and get yourself out!
Been awarded the Medal of Honor.
How come? Now, my mama's always telling me how miracles happen every day. Some people don't think so. Jenny! But they do. You can come home with me at my house in Greenbow. I'll take care of you.
Why are you so good to me?
You're my girl.
Paramount Pictures presents Tom Hanks.
I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is.
Robin Wright.
Will you marry me? I'd make a good husband, Jenny.
You would, Forrest.
But you won't marry me.
Gary Sinise.
I never thanked you for saving my life.
And Sally Field.
My boy Forrest is going to get the same opportunities as everyone else.
A film by Robert Zemeckis.
What's my destiny, Mom?
You're going to have to figure that out for yourself.
The world will never seem the same once you've seen it through the eyes of Forrest Gump.
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
Betsy, I have a brief description of Forrest Gump. Would you like to hear it?
Yeah, so
A man with a low IQ has accomplished great things in his life and been present during significant historic events. In each case, far exceeding what anyone imagined he could do. But despite all he has achieved, his one true love eludes him.
Interesting.
That's a much more poetic way of describing this movie than I would probably go.
yeah.
What is your history with the movie Forrest Gump?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Saw this in the theater. When I was watching it, I'd seen it a number of times. It was and I think there's also just the imprinting of the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just
a double disc, right? That was a double disc.
Yes, it was a double disc.
Yeah.
Yes. And like when she's, it's the 70s and she's all coked up or whatever, or maybe heroin. And she goes to stand out on that balcony, right? I know exactly what cuts and when of Freebird and exactly what she's doing during that guitar solo.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was super embedded. Right. And it was just culturally everywhere. I mean, we're making fun of us not being able to do the impressions, but that was true. Everybody could do a Forrest Gump impression.
Right.
And it was just ubiquitous. From, if we're talking MTV Movie Awards to SNL to whatever, it was just everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always forget anyway that this was a summer movie. This was a summer movie. Blockbuster. Yeah. Movie. Yeah.
And it's a movie that kids, parents, you could watch it together. They might edit some here and there on cable, but it was a cable favorite.
Yeah.
It's around. So yeah.
We have finally arrived at a movie, Betsy, that I vividly know my history with Forrest Gump.
This movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the very first thing that I remember about this movie is seeing not a Siskel and Ebert episode, not an episode of At the Movies, but a Gene Siskel vignette on local news or something like that. You know how they would submit movie reviews that would run.
They would just kind of play.
Yeah, that would just kind of play. And I remember Gene Siskel doing this, just effusive review of Forrest Gump, and basically it summed up. It was him saying, "This is a love letter to the 20th century. Go watch this movie. It's great," kind of thing. And so I vividly remember that, and I vividly remember the first time I saw it in the theater. I was with my parents. We went to a Saturday matinee at an old school theater. So the slow slope of stairs, looking like a high school auditorium kind of deal, right? With the screen up front, and the place was packed. And this was probably third weekend of release, second or third weekend of release, something like that. The place was packed on a Saturday afternoon, and I watched it, and I must have seen this movie in theaters no less than like 40 times. I mean, I went to
it feels that way.
I went to Forrest Gump so many times when I was a teenager that I knew when the cigarette burns were going to come up on the top right hand corner of the screen to show you when it was time to switch to another reel. Like, that's how many times I saw this.
Wow.
So yeah, so I could, like, even when I watch it now, I can like anticipate, like, oh, that's the part where it's about to switch over to another reel. It's like right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
Initial takes to get us started. What stood out to you on this rewatch of Forrest Gump?
Oh man. I think this is a movie where you want to kind of talk about how does it hold up.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some initial feelings, you know, because definitely you're dealing with somebody who's playing someone, as we're saying here, with a low IQ.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it makes you wonder how many people, you know, would use the R word, right?
Mm-hmm.
To kind of talk about Forrest. This was a book initially, yes?
It was, yeah. And you know what? Bringing up the R word, I was actually surprised that it wasn't used in this movie.
Me too. I found that too. I mean, that must have been intentional. Not even like the, you know, the kids yelling at him, you know, and throwing rocks at the boys in the truck, right?
It's just
you could put that word
stupid
in their
is the
mouth.
worst. Yeah, stupid is the worst insult. Yeah.
Right. I found that element, and that calling him a person with a low IQ and kind of going at it, things from that perspective was interesting. And I remember the book, I think Forrest was actually also very heavy set, if I recall. So Hanks is kind of a different physically, you know, because then you're dealing with someone who has, you know, developed, you know, mental challenge, as well as, you know, he's large, all of those pieces. But anyway, race really was jumping out at me in the rewatch, right? So he's there all the time at all of these assassinations, or like interacting with all these people who are like white who get shot. And there's no interaction with like MLK.
Right.
Which makes me wonder whether is that in the book, but like MLK's like estate wouldn't clear his likeness for this film, because he's nowhere even in it. Like MLK's nowhere even in this. Civil rights. This is the young man growing up in the South.
Just the Black Panther Party is the only
That's really all we get into,
reference.
And all they get to be portrayed as is angry and black, right? And then you have, you know, blues. You know, the Blue family is another interaction with people who are black. The first woman he talks with on the bench is a black nurse, and she is barely listening to this white man who is chatting her ear off. All the old white people and the younger white people, they listen to this guy all day, right? Oh, they'll skip their bus for this guy. She's like, I gotta go. Like, I'm out of here. You know, and it's very much that idea of like, you know, of white privilege that, you know, well, I can just kind of start telling my story wherever, and that's fine. Yeah, I'm just going to start talking to people wherever, and it's all good. And that was kind of the first thing that when I was kind of contemplating it after watching it the first time. Also, it really reminded that this was a big AI moment with Gary Sinise and when he loses his legs in the film. There's just some elements in it that are almost like this oversimplified moralistic element to the story. It almost reminds me of like a parable or something like Big Fish a little bit, because things are almost so fanciful, like they just aren't quite real.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, what's real? What's not real? But, you know, you're supposed to kind of know it's all real. Right.
So I've never read the novel, but the way folks have described the novel to me is that it has a little more fantastic elements to it, right? Like there's a little more magical realism to the novel, I think.
Right.
And the movie is sort of a departure from a lot of the source material. Yeah.
Interesting. it is some of that, person who is not as clouded with some of the crap of the world. When we talk about magic people in films, sometimes it's a magical Black person, sometimes it's, a magical mentally challenged person. That Forrest is a part of that history of characters. So that then he's not as caught up in all of the crap of the world, so that he's able to see through things better, than the rest of us can, because we've been taught too much. I mean, it's almost like that, become like children to enter the kingdom of God.
The idea is
sort of
that
idea.
Forrest doesn't have an agenda. Like, he doesn't have anything behind his motivations other than potentially, love for like this woman.
Love for Jenny and his mom, and then later for his son, which is an M for Blue. I mean, and I think for Bubba, I think the elements and Dan, relationships are the things that were really at the heart of this film. Even though the CGI is cool, and look at how they kind of sort of made LBJ's mouth move, and at the heart of the film was supposed to be about relationships and emotional processing and that sort of stuff.
There are some, I will say this, like, especially with the presidents and John Lennon.
Yes.
The lip stuff gets really dodgy.
Really distracting.
It's like, okay, I mean, yeah, you can put whatever dialogue you want. That is not close to what that man just said.
No possessions? Yeah, no, he did not just say that. Good call. I'd like to see that again. Good Lord, son, or what? I'm like, yeah. Okay. But yeah, what about you?
I have a scorching hot take.
3, 2, 1,
action. Jenny is the second worst love interest in movie history. Yeah.
I had a little more empathy for Jenny this time. Okay, talk to me about your feelings. Did you feel differently about her the first times you watched this?
Well, let me finish my original thought.
Okay, go ahead.
Jenny is the second worst love interest in movie history after Rose from Titanic, who is the worst love interest in movie history, far and away.
Wow.
Jenny is the second worst. I mean, we'll get to it when we get to Titanic.
Oh my
this
God.
woman.
Talk to me about Okay, don't this woman her. Okay, so
just
talk to me about
just a little morsel of the Titanic pod. This is a lady who lived her life, got married, had kids, had grandkids, went back to the Titanic with her family, dies, and the very first thing that she wants to do is go hang out with a guy that she knew for a day back on the boat. Come on, Rose.
Listen,
you got to think Rose's husband is like WTF Rose.
You don't know how good that D was, Greg. You don't know. You don't know. Have you ever done it in the back seat of an antique vehicle? I don't know, Greg. Have you had somebody paint you? What an intoxicating day.
Come on.
All right, we'll get there. We can debate that another time.
Jenny,
talk to me about Jenny.
She's this thing that just constantly sort of is out in the world, and Forrest turns into this creation, and then every time he sees her, she figures out a new way to disappoint him and then run off back into the world again. And it's just like, I just don't know how you hold a candle for Jenny. I mean, just let her go, Like, I mean, you said it, that Freebird bit, right? Just let that bird go. Let her do her thing. Because clearly, she has no interest whatsoever.
Well, but at times he did and does let her go. He goes and runs until he doesn't need to run anymore. And then he's back home. And then she's the one who re-enters, right? And that re-entering is in a very intentional way. She's in a different place. I think I had a different experience. So Jenny, having now lived 30 more years and seen people who have gone through trauma and how much it just messes you up when you're trying to have relationships.
You're saying
You
this is
know?
a hurt people situation.
Absolutely. Well, and you just don't. I think, again, there are aspects of this that are oversimplified, but I don't know whether I could have voiced it at the time of my initial watching of this film
Mm-hmm.
that, that Jenny is unable to make connections with people or believes she is undeserving of love. It would sound very much like the Oprah show, at the time, right? But that she doesn't deserve to be treated well because
Mm-hmm.
of the treatment that she had at the hands of her father. I got a little more emotional at that scene where she runs out of the house and they run out in the field and pray to make her a bird.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best idea that a small child can come up with.
Now remember how I told you that Jenny never seemed to want to go home? Well, she lived in a house that was old as Alabama. Her mama had gone up to heaven when she was 5, and her daddy was some kind of a farmer.
Jenny?
He was a very loving man. He was always kissing and touching her and her sisters. And then this one time, Jenny wasn't on the bus to go to school.
Jenny, why'd you come to school today? Shh. Daddy's taking a nap.
Jenny!
Come on.
Jenny! Where'd you run to? You better get back here, girl!
Where you at?
Jenny! Jenny! Where you at? Jenny!
Pray with me, Forrest. Pray with me.
Jenny!
Dear God, make me a bird so I can fly far, far, far away from here. Dear God, make me a bird so I can fly far, far, far away from here.
Mama always said that God is mysterious.
Jenny!
He didn't turn Jenny into a bird that day.
Get back here!
Instead, he had the police say Jenny didn't have to stay in that house no more. She went to live with her
That's
grandma,
tough,
just over on
right? I was
Green
also
Avenue.
struck by how beautiful and just touching that child actress was. Like she was not on screen very long. I did not need the slow-mo every time she had to say run, Forrest, run. I did not need it, nor do I want it. That is another bit that's parodied all the time. The run, Forrest, run all the time, right? What's fascinating to me now is I could make references to this movie and my high school students would be like, what are you talking about?
Okay, not so hot takes. But I can't believe this movie didn't get a sequel. There's a sequel to the novel. Gump and Company was the second novel.
I'm glad it didn't. I'm glad it just lives the way it is.
Well, it got me thinking, Betsy.
Oh, no.
Top 5. I can't believe they didn't make a sequel to this movie.
Oh, no. Am I going to fight with you on some of these? I'm excited for it. Okay. All right. Honorable mention.
Honorable mention is a movie this time. It's not a TV show. Can't believe they didn't make a sequel to Titanic. I mean, top grossing movie of all time. They couldn't make a sequel to that. That's just dollars.
What were they going to do?
Okay, that's my honorable mention because you can't really make a sequel to Titanic. But I mean, top grossing movie.
No,
of all time.
I like you going for it.
Well, you would think, like, I'm sure there was some studio exec that was like, "How can we cash in on the Titanic IP?"
For sure. Well, okay, so I'm Sherry Lansing, right? She initially had like serious doubts, about like Hanks and the accent and all that, but then she went with it. Okay, so I'm Sherry Lansing. Convince me.
Okay.
What is number 5?
Number 5 is the Will Smith superhero movie Hancock. Hancock sneaky made a lot of money.
Interesting. Well, and I'm sorry, Sherry Lansing. I'm not doing right by you because you would know what Hancock was. But I'm going to say no because that, Will Smith, we're not really touching him right now. So sorry. Right. Okay, next pitch, number 4.
Can't believe they didn't make a sequel to Coco. One of the top grossing Pixar movies of all time. They made so many sequels to Cars, and they're making another incredible sequel. We can't make a Coco sequel? Coco?
Well, I mean, Greg,
send Miguel back to the land of the dead? Find something else back there.
It's a movie about brown people, Greg.
All of these movies made a lot of money, by the way.
They're holding back. And I don't think Sherry Lansing would say that.
Number 3.
3.
And this is one that we've already discussed. Can't believe we don't have a sequel to Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Now, this one, I could see this. I mean, new characters, new animated crossovers, new mystery to solve.
The closest we got is Disney Plus has a Chip and Dale movie that's kind of like a Roger Rabbit-esque caper. It
Okay.
just stars Chip and Dale.
All right, number 2.
Number 2, I can't believe we don't have a sequel to The Sixth Sense. The Sixth Sense. This is begging for a Lego sequel in the vein of like a Top Gun Maverick, where we catch up with what Haley Joel Osment is doing right now. This is.
I mean, we do see Haley Joel Osment, baby Haley Joel Osment in this movie.
We're going to come back to that. Yeah.
I'm so excited about that.
But
I love following him on Instagram. So sure.
I mean, M. Night could write this in his sleep. Of like,
that's the problem. He writes most of the things
now?
He does recently in his sleep, and it's not going well. Greg, did you see the concert movie, the Trap?
I think this is likely one that's going to happen. I think there will be a Sixth Sense too, at some point.
But Bruce Willis can't be in it.
Bruce Willis won't be in it. It'll be about him as like a ghost hunter or whatever when he's like a grown up. I don't know what he's going to be doing. He's going to be, I don't know. He's going to be.
You're tanking, brother. You better pick it up for your last one. Let's go.
I can't believe we don't have a sequel to E.T. How did we never get an E.T. sequel? This is like, I mean, when you talk about top grossing movies, E.T. was way up there. It was waiting for like Elliot going to E.T.'s planet and has to come back to Earth or something like that. Like E.T. was begging for a sequel. I know Spielberg must have gotten so many pitches for an E.T. sequel.
But he didn't want to show that part. It was all about an alien coming to our world. It wasn't about going to their world. And that's what every time he dealt with aliens, it was like that.
I get it. I'm just saying this is money that's left on.
Okay. I do not like this capitalist pitch man. He can go away.
We've left a lot of money on the table. That's all I'm saying. What's your best scene from Forrest Gump?
Yeah, I really like the Gary Sinise in the storm scene.
Yeah. And the aftermath where he just jumps off the boat. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he jumps off and swims. Oh, yes. Yes. I don't like that it wipes out all of the black shrimpers and other people and probably Vietnamese shrimpers in the area. And then it leaves these 2 white guys to make a really lucrative company. That's a little annoying. But I think the element of that character development, I really, I mean, this was really the first time you see Gary Sinise in a major motion picture. And he's this big stage actor who's so good. And, and you wonder, all these times when people are like, oh, does Gary want to do film? No, he doesn't. He's going to do the stage. Like, I'm just guessing. Right. And then he's like, and then he like does this and he is just a powerhouse.
This has got to be peak. This is like peak Gary Sinise, right? Because it's like we had The Stand.
Right. That's really the only other big thing he's done before this, I think.
Yeah. So like 93, 94 was like The Stand. And then you have this. And then immediately after this, like next year is Apollo 13.
I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
He is an amazing actor.
So you boys are from Arkansas, huh? Well, I've been through there. Little Rock's a fine town. Now, go shake down your gear, see the platoon sergeant, draw what you need for the field. If you boys are hungry, we got steaks burning right over here. 2 standing orders in this platoon. 1, take good care of your feet. 2, try not to do anything stupid, like getting yourself killed.
I sure hope I don't let him down.
He does so much with the material that he has. That's what I just really appreciated about him.
I like the Forrest talking to Jenny's grave at the end. It's sweet. It always makes me. When I watched it as a teenager, it would always make me choke up. Like when he does the voice break.
He's just so smart.
It's just so smart. That that was always it was always a good, and it was like that was the Oscar clip moment, that you could just tell was like, oh yeah, that's gonna be the thing that like makes his best actor run, his back-to-back best actor run, go here. Yeah.
You died on a Saturday morning. I had you placed here under a tree. And I had that house of your father bulldozed to the ground. Mama always said dying was a part of life. I sure wish it wasn't. Little Forrest he's doing just fine.
But
about to start school again soon.
everywhere they went,
I make his breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. I make sure he combs his hair and brushes his teeth every day. Teaching him how to play ping pong. Okay. He's really good. Forrest, you go. We fish a lot. And every night we read a book. You're so smart, Jenny. You'd be so proud of him. I am. He wrote you a letter. And he says, I can't read it. I'm not supposed to, so I just leave it here for you. Jenny. I don't know if Mama was right or if it's Lieutenant Dan. I don't know if we each have a destiny or if we're all just floating around accidental like on a breeze. But I think maybe it's both. Maybe both is happening at the same time.
But even the lead up to that, just those beautiful shots of the sunset on the bayou and the stars over Vietnam and stuff are all, it's really pretty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Best performance from the movie.
I mean, Tom Hanks does do a really good job in this movie. But I'm very much sold by Sinise.
Yeah.
He's who really sells me. I also think the wigs did a lot of good work in this film. Because there are films that do terrible wig work. We've all watched them. And it's so distracting.
Yeah.
And this time I watched this and I'm like, damn, these wigs are really good. Like, whether you're dealing with like long hair, short hair, all the different cuts on Robin Wright. Like, I think all of that was actually the makeup and hair people did a great job on this film. But Gary Sinise really, his journey, I was supposed to die out here. That was my narrative, the way they have, someone from his family had died in every war. And that was his identity. It was where he felt at home. Was in that military setting, imagining him as like an army brat growing up, like that was, his narrative. And you robbed me of my destiny of dying out there. And I think his is one of the more complex emotional stories of the whole arc of the movie.
Yeah, and that's why that, that scene that you picked, I thought was great, where it's like the storm where he's yelling at God and stuff. But then like the next thing is him like sitting on the side of the boat and he says, I never thanked you for saving my life. And then he jumps off the boat. And it's like the line that comes after that is like this whole sort of like, I think Lieutenant Dan made his peace with God and stuff like that. And it's like the most unnecessary line from the movie because Gary Sinise just told you everything that you needed to know. Like you don't need Forrest Gump to like wrap it up with
Right.
a bow.
Interpret it, wrap it
Like
up for you.
interpret it, as he's like swimming. Like he
Right.
told you that he's okay in that moment,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I'm
yeah,
like
that's great.
tearing up now, like having us just talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I definitely need to drink water, even watch this movie again and the things that I found problematic and whatever. But it's like, yeah.
I got Haley Joel Osment here.
Oh, here we go.
Listen, kid actors, you don't know what you're gonna get with kids a lot of the time.
Like a box of
Like a box of chocolates,
Right.
And Haley Joel Osment crushes it as
He
Little
does.
Forrest. And then here's the thing that kills me, right? So he's got Little Forrest here, and then I think he's in like a Jeff Foxworthy show or something like that for like
God bless him.
the
Yeah.
next few years on like a sitcom. But going into 1999, he auditions for two roles. He's got the Sixth Sense role that he gets, but he was also up for the young Anakin Skywalker role
Shut up.
in The Phantom Menace. And George Lucas passed on him. And I got to tell you, I don't know how you watch Forrest Gump and then pass on Haley
I
Joel
don't know.
Osment. I don't
I
get
don't
it.
get that. I don't get
I
that.
don't get it. It's just really strange. I think that like, this kid's just really good. And the cool
He's
thing about
really good.
Haley Joel Osment is that he's still really good
He's still
whenever he
really
shows
good.
up in things. And
Absolutely.
he's not like a Hollywood caution tale. He's like a child actor who's fine.
Well, and I actually think that because of how good Osment is in the role,
Mm-hmm.
it's what brings the emotion out of Hanks, right? So when he says that thing at the grave, it's that. When they're in the apartment and he
Mm-hmm.
meets him and he's like, is he fine or is he like, and he
Mm-hmm.
loses it a little bit. Like, I mean, that gets me a little, like, I think it's because Osment's so good,
Yeah.
it makes that line just better. It makes Hanks better.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
That's the moment where the movie has shifted too, where it's like you're not really sure of what Forrest's awareness is, like his emotional
yeah,
awareness is.
yes,
And
yes,
he tries to have that scene that sort of comes off more silly than earnest, which is like I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is.
right.
And it's like, okay, I mean, all right. I get what you're trying to do. But it's actually it's when it shifts to like him in what is it, Georgia and Savannah or whatever,
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
that's where you really sort of see that he understands more of what's happening around him, and like
Yeah, he's an adult. Yeah,
the question of like his child's genetics and
right.
the way that
And
he
being a
processes
dad,
death. Yeah.
yeah. And then you can transition to the wedding scene, and
Hmm.
it doesn't feel like this woman is taking advantage of this individual. And I feel like they had to kind of, because I think that's another weird thing that's hanging out there in this movie.
Yeah.
How much he's aware of X, Y, and Z, you know, and how much he knows, right? We don't know. Yeah.
I just thought of another question, which I thought I was going to save for later, but this is actually probably the moment for it. Jenny's illness.
Yeah.
For years and years and years, people said that's AIDS. She's talking about having AIDS or
Yeah.
HIV.
A virus you can't cure.
I think that Robin Wright and Zemeckis have both gone on the record and saying it's not AIDS. It's
Really?
like it's something else. But like everything that she says, she talks about it being a virus. She talks about like scientists not knowing much
Right.
about it and not having a cure for it. But it seems really odd. Like I've seen so many interviews where they're like, "No, it's not AIDS. It's like it's something else." But the movie, it feels like leads you to believe that that's what she's dying from. I mean, was that how you interpreted it? I guess.
I interpreted it that way.
Okay.
The author in the sequel of the book says it's Hep C.
Okay. So there you go. Who
And
knows?
Hep C at that time, there was really no treatment if it was really in a bad way.
So I don't know. It was just it's one of those things that I think a lot of people have this read of the movie. And I don't know. Maybe that wasn't the intention of the filmmakers. Anyway, I got some stats about Forrest Gump.
Stats.
Forrest Gump opened on July 6th, 1994.
I mean, 4th of July
This
movie,
is the
baby.
Jurassic Park slot.
Yes, it is.
The Independence Day slot.
The Born on the 4th of July.
The Godzilla 2000 slot.
Well, slot. Yes.
No, this is your big tentpole movie of the summer. As Forrest Gump. That's wild. That's wild to think about. This day in 90210.
Na.
We have arrived at season 4, episode 31. Actually, this is a bit of a cheat. It's episode 31 and 32. This was a 2-hour long episode.
Whoa!
Split up into 2 episodes. So.
Wow. Okay.
It is titled Mr. Walsh Goes to Washington.
Oh no! Is there a school trip to Washington? What's happening?
They're in college at this point, so
I know. So I don't know. Okay.
Plot description: Kelly heads to Washington to surprise Brandon. That's it.
Who must have an internship here.
He just wanted to go to Washington. Brenda sees Dylan before leaving. I think this is it. I think this is
when Brenda's like, "See you later, Nona."
This is our Shannon Doherty goodbye. Yeah, this is our so long to Shannon Doherty.
Wow. Not in Washington.
Actually, for the rest of the series, right? Because she doesn't come back until the reboot of 90210. Yeah.
But that did not happen in our nation's capital.
David is caught cheating.
David!
God, David. Just constantly.
You, David! What is he? What's he caught cheating? On a test. On Donna. Just cheating?
On Donna, yeah.
Ugh.
David is caught cheating. And Andrea and her husband,
so weird,
determined is Jesse, right?
Yeah, it's Jesse. Yeah, who recently passed away, I do believe.
Yeah, that's right. We talked about this on an earlier episode.
Yes, we did.
Andrea and her husband cope with parenthood, and then here it is. Here's the kicker, Betsy. Guest Babyface.
Oh.
Now, is Babyface playing the Peach Pit After Dark?
Definitely. Or like he and David are working on a project together. I vaguely want to feel like that's happening. And then maybe David has to process the fact that he's screwed up with Babyface. Like, I'm not sure.
Yes, yeah.
I'm not sure.
Oh, no. This is where we'll insert the audio clip of Babyface being disrespected by a couple of AP reporters.
Because Chapel Roan walked by. Yep.
We're seeing people blend the genre with pop, blend the genre with hip hop and rock as well.
Yes, I think it's interesting.
Chapel.
You guys want to do that? Go do that.
So sorry, baby. I'm so sorry.
I'm really sorry about interrupting Babyface earlier. Chapel Roan had come up and there was a lot of commotion as there is on these carpets, but I'm a big Babyface fan and as are we all, and so I just wanted to say that I really apologize.
Babyface deserves better.
Come on, it's Babyface. He's a legend.
It's Babyface.
Come on. 90210 treated him right, I'm sure.
Oh, I bet they did.
Yeah. They weren't trying to push him away so that they could talk to Chapel Roan.
They were not. They knew his importance.
Forrest Gump had a domestic gross of $330 million. I mean, that's a lot of money.
This is going to be much better. I'm very excited about this. Okay, go ahead.
$330 million, but Betsy, get this. Making it the number 2 grossing movie of 1994.
Okay.
That's right. There was a movie that made more than $330 million in 1994. We may actually talk about that movie later. So
I think I have an idea of what that movie is. Okay, yes.
Forrest Gump is the number 86th top grossing movie.
All right, I am prepared. I'm
we have
ready
cracked
with
the top 100
okay.
here.
Oh, I'm so excited. Maybe I won't even have to look them up on IMDb.
You will not have to look these movies
Oh,
up.
thank God. Okay.
It is the number 86 top grossing movie of all time, and it comes between Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice.
Okay, I do have to look that up because I'm not quite sure which one that is.
We actually have a full-fledged fracking episode on Batman v Superman in our Popping Collars archives back when we were chasing
We
things
did
like
this
that.
movie?
We talked about this movie in particular. It's
I blocked that up. I blocked All right, great.
So Forrest Gump comes between Batman v Superman and Oppenheimer is on the other side of this movie. Oppenheimer.
Oh.
Another Best Picture winner. Oppenheimer.
Wow.
So you get to Flirt, Marry, Kill. You get Oppenheimer, Forrest Gump, and Batman v Superman.
Colon.
Dawn of Justice.
I'm being put in a little bit of a corner. Okay, so I'm gonna flirt with
just like Florence Pugh. You're just gonna
just
flirt
like
with
Florence Pugh, but I'm more close on. And then I'm going to marry Forrest Gump, and I think I'm gonna murder the Dawn of Justice.
That is ding ding ding. That is the answer.
Yay!
You flirt with Oppenheimer because it's way too long, and Oppenheimer just isn't the kind of guy you marry.
No, he's
as
tough.
Emily Blunt can attest.
Yeah.
You marry Forrest Gump because you can watch that movie 40 times in theaters and then get that BVS nonsense out of here.
Out of here. Look at, and you as a DC Comics boy, I'm just feel for you.
Oh my gosh. We are in such a state with these superhero movies. I can't, I am secretly wishing that they just all end up at the bottom of the ocean somehow.
Right. Well, with the Titanic, it all comes full circle again.
Forrest Gump has a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Huh.
That tracks. I think there's a lot of more recent detractors from this movie.
Yeah, I wonder how that score has changed over time.
Yeah, I think if you go back to 1994, it was probably at 99%.
Right.
And
Sure.
it has slowly trickled down as new critics have entered the chat.
Yeah.
Roger Ebert, what do you think? We know what Gene Siskel thought.
Freaking loved it. Can't stop. Won't stop.
I'm pretty sure it was
much like Forrest Gump in that dorm room. Yeah. Just can't hold back.
I'm pretty sure it was his number one of the year. It was either this.
It's got to be.
It was either this or Pulp Fiction, but I think it was this. Raj says, I can't think of anyone else as Gump. After seeing how Hanks makes him into a person, so dignified, so straight ahead, the performance is a breathtaking balancing act between comedy and sadness in a story rich in big laughs and quiet truths. 4 out of 4 stars.
Lord, I was making a joke, but he went for it. Okay.
He went for it. That's how you know Raj likes a movie. You can tell he puts the extra sauce
when he writes. Yeah, there's another couple of sentences on that one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's not like it looked great. 4 out of 4 stars.
He definitely does some shortchanging. That's for real. Okay.
So I have a Rita Kempley review.
Okay.
She says skillfully adapted by screenwriter Eric Roth. The story belongs in the company of such sweet classics as Rain Man and Harvey.
What's Harvey again?
Harvey is the one with the invisible rabbit.
Jimmy Stewart.
Jimmy Stewart.
Was he in Harvey?
Yeah. He was the guy that saw the invisible rabbit. Nobody else saw the rabbit. Only Jimmy Stewart.
Do you think that's that Hank sees himself as a Jimmy Stewart?
Yes, I think Hanks sees himself as Jimmy Stewart, but I think that the real Jimmy Stewart of our era is Denzel Washington. How did Forrest Gump do at the Oscars? Betsy, it won.
One too much.
1, 2,
How many?
3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, okay. So it only won 6 Oscars.
Okay,
It
so
won
here we go.
6.
Okay, so I did not look this up.
Right.
I have some knowledge, but okay. Best Picture.
Best Picture.
Best Actor Tom Hanks.
Best Actor Tom Hanks.
Best Adapted Screenplay.
Best Adapted Screenplay, yes.
Best Wigs.
No, not Best Wigs.
It didn't win hair and makeup?
No. Nominated, but did not win.
Nominated, but did not. Score?
Nominated, but did not win. Yeah, this is an Alan
That is another one of
Silvestri.
my sister's hot takes. She was all up on the score, she remembered.
This is an Alan Silvestri, and I think the Forrest Gump suite at the beginning, I think it's one of those that sort of stands the test of time. Like people kind of know it when they hear it.
I would agree with you. Okay, so I'm at 3. Okay, so picture, director, actor.
Yeah, so you got 3 more. One of them is an above the
picture.
line.
No, director. Best director.
Yes.
I knew best director. Okay.
Best director. And this is one of those that I can another vivid memory. I remember Steven Spielberg saying he was the one that presented best director that year. He called out Zemeckis's kids. And he was like, Brandon and Joey, your dad just won an Oscar. Robert Zemeckis, best director.
Right.
Blah, blah.
Okay, so I've got 4 out of how many?
6. You got
6.
two more below.
Special effects, some variety.
Yes, visual effects.
And then some sort of editing.
Film editing. Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you. 6. And then score of other nominations. I'll just read them off.
Yes. I mean, kajillion.
Best supporting actor, Gary Sinise. It was also up for best cinematography.
Who won best supporting?
Martin Landau. We already talked about, for Ed Wood.
Oh, yes, we did.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It was up for best cinematography. It was up for best set direction. It was up for best sound, best sound effects editing, best makeup, and best score.
Congratulations. How does it feel to be an All-American?
Very good, sir.
Congratulations. How does it feel to be an All-American?
Very good, sir.
Congratulations. How do you feel?
I gotta pee.
I believe he said he had to go pee.
Sometime later, for no particular reason, somebody shot that nice young president when he was riding in his car. And a few years after that, somebody shot his little brother, too, only he was in a hotel kitchen. Must be hard being brothers.
Okay, what's the lasting legacy of this movie? And Betsy, I think it's time for us to talk about, is this the season finale for Boomer movies? The Boomer finale. I think this is a time to talk about generations a little bit. And
I agree. So as a child of a Vietnam veteran, after this movie, right? I remember my dad came down when I lived in New Orleans, and we went. He came down for Jazz Fest. It was awesome, and they'll do like night concerts that will also like individual like night concerts can also happen too at outside of the Jazz Fest, the fairgrounds or whatever, or the race grounds, and we went to go see John Fogerty, and this was when he had finally gotten clearance to play the Creedence songs, right? Because he had been held back from doing that. So when he played Fortunate Son, which takes you right to this movie. I think for Gen Xers who have parents because my parents are not exactly boomers, they're kind of early boomers. They're like 42 and 45. So they're kind of ahead on the trend. But it gave you this cross-generational conversation to kind of have. And it's also for Gen Zers, why do we keep having parties where, the theme is like the 60s and we're dressing up and we're wearing tie and, and but that my dad and mom, they were too old to be Jenny. Like they were not living that life, you know? So it kind of, I think for those of us who were into that kind of sociological kind of looking at generations, this movie is a door opener for you to, because it's a multi-generational movie. Like go with your multi-generational family and see this movie.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think there is a clear shift here though, in the sense that I think that this is something that, listen, I'm a Gen Xer. I watched this
Yep.
movie. I appreciated this movie for what it was, but I also recognize that like I had by this point, by 1994, a
Mhm.
whole cultural language that was not in the wheelhouse of this movie. Like, as far as music, as far as up and coming directors, which we've already talked about
Yeah.
a lot, we're going to be talking about a lot more going forward. The way that MTV has sort of capitalized on our generation, like everything, there's a whole generational conversation that's happening on the other side of what this movie is lionizing. And what it made me think about was, and this is the first time that we're recording a pod since the Super Bowl, but it made me
Mhm.
think about the halftime show of the Super Bowl,
Mhm.
which has
Mhm.
so many different layers that also involve culture, involve
Race.
politics of rap, involve
Yeah.
race, like all kinds of things. But I think that a significant part is that Kendrick's performance was not for the generations that don't know who Kendrick is, right? It's like it hearkened a it heralded a cultural shift, in my opinion, to thank you very much, Gen Xers, and maybe even some older millennials. We appreciate you. There's a whole cultural generation that's
Mm.
ready to go now, and we've already got our soundtrack and stuff. So thanks for holding the place. We're gonna take it from here, kind of thing.
I felt always this push to kind of understand the boomers because there were so many of them and they control the narrative for so long. It was like, well, I need to understand them in
Mhm.
order to work inside the institutions that they've created or that they're managing or that they're whatever. And this is not a Gen X gripe, but this movie was, I think, I saw it as that. I was also like a sociology concentration while also doing journalism. So a lot of all that was going on for me at the time when this movie came out. That it does. I mean, in retrospect, but the Monday morning quarterback to go with your Super Bowl is this. We spent a lot of time as a generation trying to understand our parents and the
Mm.
people before us. And we did make our own movies, and we're going to look at some of those that are trying to like capture who we are. And that. So I still wonder whether whether the definitive Gen X piece has yet to be done.
Oh, that was actually my next question is, has the last Gen X movie already been
No,
made?
I don't think so.
I think so.
I do not. I think there's something else out there. There are enough creators who have reins and harness and power who are in their 50s who are still great storytellers. I think it can still happen. That's what
I
I
don't
think.
know. I am convinced that the last Gen X movie has been made. I think that you could make a case that, and for in my mind, it's potentially two movies. It's either Before Midnight, Richard Linklater's Before
Mhm.
Midnight, or it's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as the
Mm.
last Gen X movies. Because those are, one is a movie of Gen Xers looking back on a life lived and asking, did we do it right? Like, why doesn't it feel like we did it right?
Mhm.
And the other is a filmmaker making a movie about a period of history that movie makers and filmmakers who get movies made just don't even remember. Like driving around LA with your window down, the lights coming on in the Cinerama Dome, going out to where crazy Charlie Manson and his folks are. It's just like it's this memory of LA that like Gen Xers may have, but like millennials just don't have that memory, really. And I feel like a lot of the mainstream movies that get made now are very technology focused. I just think the hallmark of Gen X media is hanging out and talking, And it's like there's so few things that are just hanging out and talking anymore. And it's just
Definitely.
like that's why I kind of feel like the last We're Hanging Out and Talking movie has kind of been made.
But I don't know whether this is the bow. This is not the boomer bow. I don't think so. I think it's just too vast. We'll see.
I don't
We'll
know.
see.
I think boomers are done after that. I was even just looking at our slate of like what we've got coming up for the rest of the year. It's like there's nothing that looks like Forrest Gump that's on our list, really. I will say
It's
this, one other Super Bowl reference, Super Bowl halftime show reference,
yeah.
to Kendrick Lamar's performance.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
absolutely and I remember thinking this as I was watching it because as I was watching, I was like, there's so much more here because I can't really understand what it is that Sam Jackson is saying right
Right.
now. And I think that it's really important as to what Kendrick means with this performance. And so
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go back and watch it. But it
Mm-hmm.
validated for me, like just the layers to that performance
Mm-hmm.
validated every reason why we thought that a podcast like this was important. That like
Yeah.
people make meaning out of popular art. And it still happens, and it's still amazing when a popular artist challenges a
Yeah.
mass audience on that level. Like
Agreed.
I think it's just great. And I'm glad that
Agreed.
I'm glad there's been a whole backlash. I'm glad there's been a whole conversation that's started around this performance and what it means and like parsing it out and all of that stuff. I just think that
Yeah.
it's everything that our show tries to take seriously.
Agreed. It's not all fluff. Yeah. For
Who's this
sure.
movie?
And I think too, with what you're talking about, I mean, people could look at this movie as, pure Americana, right? Like
Yeah,
this is an American story. Look at how
yeah.
this person is woven into American history, how that narrative is broad but limited all at the same time,
Who is this movie for, Betsy?
helping me understand my parents. It's for everyone, Greg. Da, da, da,
It's
da, da, da,
for
da,
everyone.
da. Bring everybody multiple times. Come see this movie.
I just wrote that this movie's for boomers. It's a love letter to
I mean,
a
sure.
generation. It's it's a hey, we did it. Here
Look
it is.
at all this stuff we lived through.
Look at what we
High five.
came through. High five. What's your rating for this movie out of 5?
No, you're that's me. Hold on. Okay. As listeners know, I'm working off one long note on my phone here with all my ratings for all the movies. So I'm gonna. What's my scale? I'm at a 5, right, Greg?
Yeah, best out of 5.
I'm giving this movie a 4.
Okay.
What
We're
about
in the
you?
same ballpark. I gave it a 4.5. I ticked it up just a little bit because I really like this movie. I mean, I wrote in my notes, I have always loved this movie. I wish there were more movies like this now. Instead of it
Damn.
just as far as just
Were you drunk on the movie at that point? Goodness.
no, I just wish that there were original story or like movies based on novels. And just like I just watched another ad for like the new Captain America movie, and I'm just like,
You're a little fed up.
burn it all down. I'm so done.
I got you.
I'm so
I got you.
done with just like somebody vomiting colors all over a movie screen and saying, "Oh, it's a movie." No, it's not. It's terrible. Like, let's
Yeah, I
just
got
move
you.
on. Let's turn the page from this stuff, people.
I got you.
Why did the Academy nominate this?
Because everybody loved it. Bring your grandma, bring your daddy, bring your daughter.
Cinema.
Cinema. I mean, like, I think we were talking before this started. Zemeckis, he does make really interesting choices. I think that often gets lost in the big budgetness and big win of this movie, in particular. You know what I mean? And Castaway, to kind of come in with that later, right? That there's so many of those kind of elements that crowd out the fact that he's a very interesting creator. That it makes it feel like he's a big budge guy. But if you go on and look at his IMDb, that's not the story that his resume tells. So yeah, I think that this just it was a studio taking a risk potentially on an odd story.
Yeah.
And taking a risk on technology, taking a risk on, Hanks was coming off of a win.
Very different.
Very different film for Philadelphia. So
yeah, I think coming out of this movie, Hanks's career is never the same. I mean, it's like a Hanks movie is an event movie from here on out. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I just ditto all that. I don't even have anything else to add. Yeah.
I killed that. Way to go. Good job, me.
What did Emily say about Forrest Gump?
I mean, she said, in the same way that this movie was just kind of ubiquitous, and we watch it so much. Like she's like, I've watched this movie like so many times.
Yeah.
But for her, it was really that soundtrack, the score. Like there was so much of that was just totally seeped into you from that time. She remembers having like the double disc in her like 3 CD changer in her room, and can like see it playing, like that sort of thing.
What do you think David Letterman said about this in his
Oh my God, so much. I can't even imagine. Play that clip now.
Well, of course, Forrest Gump said life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, unless, of course, you're sitting next to Roger Ebert, and then you know you're not going to get any. Sorry. I don't feel good about that, by the way.
Actually, Forrest Gump is actually one of the movies that I think he did talk about in the midst of all the Uma Oprah stuff.
Are you going to bring up the Uma Oprah thing every episode that we do?
Probably, because that's all he does for the entire monologue.
I know.
It's Uma Oprah. Okay, that's it. Forrest Gump in the books.
Done.
Next up, Betsy, we are moving on to another Academy pick for Best Picture.
Oh, yes.
I believe the Academy nominated this movie. We're going to 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Because they were like, where's a Merchant Ivory film? There isn't one? Here's another British film. Let's nominate it.
So 4 Weddings and a Funeral is up next. Betsy, thank you for running across country with me. Should we just turn around and go back?
I mean, that feels a little empty, but okay, that's fine. As long as I get some Nike shoes out of it. Okay.
Oh, no. I can maybe give you some bumper sticker ideas if you want to.
Oh, God. Okay.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.